Go ahead, Alex. Welcome to the show. What do you got for us?
Yeah, it's kind of a two-prong question for you guys. One of them is that my employment is attached to the idea that I'm a believer and it's a pretty stable income. And given the economic situation that we have now, stable income is, nothing to just take for granted.
Sure.
So I wanted to know, like, what do you guys think about the ethical implications of basically going on a journey, questioning things while working pretty explicitly against the very ideas that I'm starting to lean towards. That's the first kind of portion of it.
Are you so when you work at Answers in Genesis? I'm not saying you do. When anyone works at Answers in Genesis, for example, which is the Ken Ham large creationist operation, even the janitors, in order to wipe the tables there, you have to sign a statement of faith, right?
Hmm.
But I've been there, been visited, and like the people wiping the tables, they're not actively doing anything with that statement of faith when they do their job duties. Do you feel like is the statement of faith that you are either signed or are inferring by remaining employed there? Is it does it interact with the duties that are required of your job?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
So you're falsely representing your beliefs in some way.
Yes, but I guess just a little bit of the context. My beliefs have kind of I've rapidly began to question things like in the last like month. Like 3 months ago, I would have argued you down in favor for like Donald Trumpism, and now I have it's almost like a veil has kind of come off where I'm like, we we really don't have any accountability for any sort of like standard morally, economically, any which way for this administration or for the claims of this administration, and like just seeing the hypocrisy kind of on that issue led me to question and look into some of the things in regards to the faith stuff. And so it's been an interesting process the past, I'd say, about 6 weeks or so, where it's I've pretty radically shifted, and I've been pretty disappointed in talking to some of the people that I've opened up about some of these things to, where they just turn a blind eye just to some of it. Because for me, it's one thing to just be ignorant of a thing, but then to actually have somebody present you with the facts of like, no, this is the real world, implications of what this ideology is doing, and to stick to it. That's it's a disappointing thing, but then I feel like kind of a hypocrite because I'm still working my job, but then I have my family and I just bought a new place, and so you kind of get how I'm a little stuck here. Hello.
Yeah, I'm going to pass this to Matt soon because this sounds like it's more a political thing than necessarily a religious thing, and I'm not one of your countrymen. But I will say, so one of the things that I was actively, a youth leader and a worship leader in a church when I started deconverting. One of the things that I started to do because just ethically I couldn't figure out, but it sounds like with you is it took me a long time to figure out where I was going to land, and it would have been very premature for me to have quit when I was just like kind of like, oh, this might all be garbage. What I did, I actually every time I was on stage, just my conscience prompted me to have other people pray. I still sang the songs, I still did the thing, but like when it was praying or some of these things, I started backing my way out just for my own conscience. That's everyone's conscience is going to be different. I guess my question now, though, it sounds like you're saying not only is the lying weighing on your conscience or the misrepresenting of your thoughts, but that you suspect that your employer is actively doing harm. It sounds like, and for me that would be an extra level of consideration, at least that not you're not only just misrepresenting your own thoughts, which is fair. Like actors do that, right? Like if you are if you're performing on stage, someone has to play Hitler in the movie, right? Like, but they don't believe Hitler is real, so they're performative in that way. But if you feel like the actual endeavor of your employer is to harm people, um, that adds an extra layer for me. Does that add an extra layer for you, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, don't, here's my simplest answer, Alex, and that is your first obligation is to make sure that you and your family are taken care of. And unlike what the Bible tells you or what Sam Harris might tell you in his little book on lying, I think that there are situations where lying is the most moral thing you can do. The traditional example is, if the Nazis are knocking on your door to say, "Is Anne Frank in here?" You lie. Yeah. And Sam dismissed that by suggesting that you could just not answer the question or, come up with some alternate way to, you know, no, just fucking lie. Because the end result is better. To me, a lie like that is like saying it is immoral to take a sharp thing and slice somebody's throat. However, it's not immoral if it's a tracheotomy that's going to save their life. And so, similarly, it would be immoral to lie to the authorities under most circumstances. But if it's going to save somebody's life, then you do it. And so, I think you're in a position where you are morally obligated to continue your exploration. You don't owe anybody an explanation for who you are, what you think, or anything else. And you do have an obligation to protect your family. And that I think the best thing you can do is start looking for a way to get out of this situation so that you can take care of things without the negative side effects of feeling guilty or feeling like you're aiding something problematic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's a really good answer, and that's kind of where I've been mentally. But then there's that piece of me where I kind of judge myself a bit. So I appreciate you kind of seeing it that same way. Then the other piece of it a little bit is um, dealing with the idea that, or I guess here I'll phrase it like this: what do you guys, or how do you handle it? I should say, when you provide clear, like obvious, like cited evidence for a thing, and people will see it and just literally ignore it. And because that's the thing that I kind of like look at myself like, man, have I been doing that for 30 some odd years? Like just as an example, I was showing somebody with Trump, some of his statements on Gaza, how he's going to turn it into a resort for the wealthy and clear the whole place and force a bunch of countries to take the civilian, just ridiculous things that contradict clear statements he said when he was campaigning. And I was showing them like the back-to-back video of this, and I was like, this is a very clear cut contradiction. And I watched this person who claimed to have these like moral, ethical standards surrounding like genocide and things of that nature, just completely throw everything that they'd stood for since I've known them out the window because Trump switched his position.
Yeah.
And it's just, like that was like really hard to just watch happen. And it's like how do I even go on my journey and talk to you and like what I'm saying? So like, how do you
I know
deal
what
with
you're
that
saying.
kind of thing?
I know what you're saying, and I share your frustration. And if I had an answer, the world would be a much better place. Um, I'm as baffled by this as you or anyone else. I genuinely, I mean, for years I've been sitting here saying, here are the facts of reality, and the MAGA crowd don't care. They are all anti woke, anti left. Let's own the libs. Fuck your feelings. I'm more, it's we care about the price of eggs, but we really don't want trans people to have an F on their license plate, on their driver's license, or whatever else. That's the bigger deal. And then, oh no, he didn't say this. He didn't mean this. And then you show them the evidence. What we know, I have a friend who, I have a couple friends who wrote books on changing minds. Once somebody has made a public profession of something, they are more likely to dig in, even in the face of evidence to the contrary. And
Mm.
we know that for me, one of the best things to do is once you realize you're not going to make progress here, is to take a step back and have a conversation about what sort of things might change your mind. What sort of evidence are you willing to accept? What sort of base principles are you starting with? And maybe having that conversation gets you to the point where they have to have some kind of break, and it's, I mean, you can just highlight it, and then they're either going to recognize it and change, or you are currently battling a lost cause. Some people have to hear things multiple times. It's, you're kind of overcoming the fact that they've heard this lie 75 times. And so you might have to tell the truth 77 times to get them over that hump. But one thing, and Arden pointed this out to me, and some others have as well, is a counter way of doing this is, instead of showing them, here are the facts and here's why you're wrong, set all of that aside and do, here are some facts and here is the better path. So rather than doing the you're wrong, you do the here's a better way. Hey, oh, I just trust Trump. He's a billionaire and his tariff idea is brilliant. Well, no, he's a failed billionaire who's bankrupt. He bankrupted a fucking casino. I mean, you know how hard it is to bankrupt a casino, but he doesn't pay his bills. He lies. None of that matters, because they see him as either God's flawed, chosen representative, or whatever, however they rationalize it. If instead you present them a better option, and so set aside everything about Trump, ask them what is the better world that they want to see, and then show them a better path to get there, that might be the best way to do it. But I don't know, because that's not normally what happens in the conversations I have here.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's what I have for you guys, and I appreciate the insights on it, and I'll just keep going on my journey here, and yeah.
Awesome.
Good,
Well,
good
thank
luck,
you, Alex. I
Alex.
appreciate the call. And let us
All right,
know if
thanks.
something
Bye.
changes.